Hi, people. It is your friendly neighborhood terrible old woman here to jump into your new moon reading for June 2026. 2026, yeah. I don't know what I thought I was saying. Or whenever you're watching this, there are things that still apply. It's like that's why you stumbled upon it. I'm a little bit froggy today. Heat is bringing out things, but never mind all that. I am going to do a reading from the spirit animal, Tara, and interestingly enough, so I watch the Dawdling Writer streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 Mountain, which is where I am. So it would then be 10 Pacific. Um, I never remember what Central is, so I don't mention it. But anyways, so she always pulls a spirit animal card, and today she pulled the electric eel. Well, lo and behold, the electric eel was the top card face up in my deck. When I opened the box. So last time I did a reading with this deck, I got the electric eel. Now, I'm going to see, I may have to reach back here and get my glasses. So we're just going to use the old electric eel as our number one card in the 7-card reading. And the electric eel applies to survival, money, tangible issues, and work. Well, I've been working from home for the last, since 2019, 7 years? Yeah, something like that, going on 7 years. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Anyhow, so working on my writing, which I had been struggling with a lot. I joke you not. It had been bad. Nonfiction writing, yeah, I splat that stuff out there. No problem. Fiction writing was the problem. It's like I get started on some idea or other, and then I just could not follow through. The thing about fiction writing is for literal decades, for me, it has been kind of a form of therapy. Well, not kind of, it's been a form of therapy. Basically, I tell myself stories. I tell myself the stories I would want to read. Nobody else has written them, and nobody else is gonna write them. So I'm gonna write them. Thing is, it had been hard for me realizing that I'm just sort of weird and there is kind of nothing else like me out there. Um, and so, when I take these writing business focused webinars and whatever, find your target audience. Well, I'm my fucking target audience. But the thing of it is, if you're looking at it on the surface, um, have a woman in her 60s who lives in a rural area, who's kind of far down there on the, you know, social spectrum. I'm on SSDI. I'm not making tons of money. So, okay, you can add in disabled. And I really, at this point, I really kind of hate getting into the whole race thing at all. I mean, I know that there is value in doing analysis of, racial disparities because they still exist. I'm not going to do the whole white privilege apology because I'm sorry, I'm so sick of all that virtue signaling shit. I will acknowledge that white people have it easier institutionally in the United States, which is where I live, and there are still places out there that will prejudice themselves against non-white people, even in things like renting to people and stuff like that, even though laws exist to protect people. There are those who get around the laws. I'm not denying any of that. I don't know at this point. Anyways, so if we're gonna boil me down to a fucking bunch of um crap on a census, kind of those things I mentioned before. But the thing is, that's not a monolith. There are plenty of women in their 60s who are nothing, white women in their 60s even, living in rural areas, who are nothing like me. In fact, I'd say that's most of them. I always have kind of trouble um socializing and stuff. Like I used to, in order to try and build kind of a sense of community, I would go to the seniors lunches that they'd have every Thursday down at the school in town here. And I stopped doing it because I just felt, I always felt like I didn't really belong. People were nice enough to me. It's not that they acted like, oh my God, here she comes. You can't sit with us. It wasn't something like that at all. But I always felt like, I was putting on the mask. I can't show who I really am. This is a town where they've got very, Christian values and all that. And I'm an agnostic who, believes there's some kind of higher power, but um, I'm not going to go buy a book of cherry picked stories that's been changed over the centuries many a time in order to fit this or that. Um, Usually ruler or something, their ideas on stuff. That book is not my go-to. I certainly do not believe in Republican Jesus. Um, I'm not. I don't want to go into my whole philosophy on, Jesus. Yes, I believe he existed, and yes, I have utmost respect. You know, but what's being depicted and what he was is, and what he is an enlightened spirit. Um, Not the same thing at all. So, anyway, also, this town is in a very red area. I don't have hatred for the people who live here, but they've been very indoctrinated with certain ideas. I absolutely do not want to touch politics. I tend to lean liberal. There are certain aspects of the left at this point that I find very troublesome. I'm not going to get into all of that here because that's not what this is about. And I did not mean to have this whole discussion. What I meant to do was say, someone fitting basically my physical description. We aren't all the same. All disabled people are not the same. I don't know who the fuck my audience is other than me. I know somebody who's wanting to read a cozy contemporary romance, which I read some of those. Yeah, I like them. But anyways, that audience is not going to be interested in my quirky, dark fantasy stuff that I tend to write. So I don't know. I guess that's sort of my audience, except not. I don't know. Anyway, fuck all that shit. I've gotten way off track here. Um, I need to check my time real quick. Um, I use this Forest app. Okay, I've got 6 minutes to blather on before I have to pause the video because I'm, as I said, participating in the Dawdling Writer stream right now. If you write, or just if you're like me and you're kind of isolated and you want some companionship for whatever the hell it is you're doing, come on in. I will put a link to her channel in my description. So anyway, we're talking about our friend, the electric eel, here in this position of survival, money, tangible assets issues. I should put on my glasses. I'm resisting. And work. Okay, the electric eel is number 24. Um, let's if nothing else, I'm providing you some entertainment for your day. Like, good grief, this lady's a mess. At least I'm not that much of a mess. I'm getting my glasses. I got new glasses. I'm actually still getting used to the prescription. It's not gonna keep those won't do the glare preventing thing. Ostensibly for night driving, which I think I did kind of a little experiment, just short distance. I think they make things better, but I still I live 60 miles from a city on these country roads with no lighting. I still don't want to do it. But these are the regular everyday ones, and like I said, I'm still getting used to them. I don't like Zenny's new glasses cases. I should get my own glasses case. It's kind of a low priority. The older one, it was bigger and it was kind of a cloth. There was plenty of room for my cleaning cloth and my glasses. These ones, it's a fucking tight fit and it annoys me with this case. Anywho, now maybe I can see a little better. So the electric eel, the main message is bring your ideas to life. And damned if I wasn't doing that in the wee hours of this morning. And it was great. I'll get a little more in depth on that after I read about the car. So the jolt of the electric eel spirit is awakening in you. A big idea that you are meant to explore. Um, my problem is I always have too many ideas. How to focus on the big idea. That's the thing. So you can expect lots of epiphanies and aha moments. Those are always great. It's a time with potential for profound transformation. There's inspiration. Um, this is really good if you're a creative person, kind of good as it gets, or if you're an entrepreneur of some kind. Uh, take heed of the ideas that come to you at this time. Now, I always look into the shadow side of the message, the protection message. And this is always very important. Ideas need to percolate as they rarely download in detailed form. And, I'm the kind of person that latches onto something that's the least bit interesting, and I'll ride that thing come hell or high water. And maybe I'm missing details, and I probably am. So don't rush to follow the muse without taking time to contemplate the meaning of your aha moment. Um, and be prepared for the fact that the path to the completion of your idea may be different than what you envision. I came from a family where I basically learned main character syndrome at an early age and was always trying to script things, and it led to a lot of pain and frustration. So try not to do that. Try to recognize if you're doing that. Um, and also, there's great impatience. And I feel like I'm being called out here, but giving up when things take more time than expected. I'm the queen of that. I am such a bad role model. Um, I'm basically this example of, okay, don't do what she does, and you'll probably be okay. Um, I don't know. And so you kind of, the ideas, give it time to think about it, but go ahead and be excited about it, because fuck, there's not a lot of happiness and excitement going around at this time. Everything's kind of shite. Um, okay. I guess that was the only one I had in the upright position at that point. I thought that was the one from my last whole reading using this deck. Apparently not. Let's shuffle for the next 6 cards. Get out of my way here. Oh, I was gonna do that thing. Maybe I'm not. I'm on a roll here. See, deepening mindfulness practice to recovery dharma. Hang on, I'm gonna pause for a second. I guess I'm back. Would hate to be just blathering on and nothing's being recorded. But anyway, we're on to our second card here, which covers um, relationships, family, um, friendships, and so, whoever you're close to. And coming in to talk about that, we've got the crow. Um, and that's number 17. And the crow's message is co-create with spirit. Um, as you look around, sense the magic in the world. And I'm always a proponent of looking for magic in things. I will talk about the fact that um I learned magical thinking at an early age. Magical thinking and magic, it's two different things. You know, I when I was involved in the New Age movement, there was always, if you can't manifest it in 3 days, your faith isn't strong enough, basically. And I've talked about how that's just another form of prosperity gospel. It's bullshit. It just has a sparkly fairy coat. Sorry. Oh, whatever these allergens are, this dust or pollen or whatever the hell. I paused so you didn't have to watch me hack up a lung. Anyway, you know, what can I say? One of my fights in this world is against the poison of prosperity gospel. And prosperity gospel is a big undercurrent of the New Age movement. It's really that same whole last thing of if things are going wrong in your life, well, you brought that on yourself, which, hello, victim blaming. It's one thing to learn to recognize where you are leaving yourself open to predatory people, and this is usually because you haven't learned that you deserve to be protected from such people. It's, you know, I just I get so tired of it. I'm tired of it, and I don't want anybody else to fall victim to it. Um, so the rest of my life will be spent fighting against the poison of prosperity gospel, and this includes toxic positivity. That's kind of an arm of it. Basically shut people up by telling them, well, you're thinking negative, you're bringing everyone down when maybe you are just noticing that there's a problem with this, whatever it is. I find that critical thinking is a skill that is not being taught and it's in short supply. My thing is a little bit askew here, but I don't know. I need to rearrange this pad on my bed, and I'm not going to do it right now because, like I said, I'm on a roll. So we got the crow, and we're talking about magic. So and aligning your thoughts and feelings, which does not mean not acknowledging when something comes up that's troubling or that you notice something kind of awry in a relationship or whatever, and it needs to be addressed, and you need to not ignore that. That's not what, trying to align yourself more to positive energies is about. It doesn't mean ignoring things that are going wrong or being. I always hark back to this this dreadful person, a little Miss Sweet Tea and Sunshine. And once again, I'm not joking about that. The fact that this is what this person called herself, and this was in the early 2000s, and she had a blog, and I'll never forget that one of her posts was, I just don't understand these negative people that aren't seeing the beauty in the world. I was like, oh, fuck off. It's one of these people who was kind of a walking laundry list of shit not to say to people who are dealing with depression. Mm, toxic positivity. Anyway, um, so yes, we can use the energies that are in the universe to help us manifest what we want, but sometimes, and like this has been me for more than a year. Well, it's actually kind of been me for decades, but it really was magnified since last year when my mother passed away. Just my thoughts and my patterns. I want to wait till after I've done the reading to get into this, but this realization that I had about the way my bereavement manifested and kind kind of went crazy in the world. Um, yeah, but one of the things you gotta know is that you deserve good things to come to you, and a lot of us think we don't, and we think deep down inside we really don't. And that is a problem that I have. Let's go to the protection message. And so ask yourself the question, why do you think there's no magic in the world? You know, for me, it's not like I ever entirely thought there's no magic in the world. It was mostly, maybe that'll help a little. Um, that it wasn't there for me, and it doesn't take the form usually of these well, certainly, um and I'm showing my age here and I don't give a fuck, but magic doesn't work like Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie, right? Elizabeth Montgomery did it much better than I am. Nose wiggle. If I could just wiggle my nose or whatever and cause things to manifest, my fucking house would be clean and in order. So, yeah, that doesn't work. I wish it did, but it doesn't. But then again, imagine all the stupid shit you might have wished for if, like, you could rub a lamp. Now, with Jeannie, she would be great because there isn't a limit on the number of wishes, and it's like, all right, if she was my roommate or whatever, I could, you know, I don't know what the fuck I'd offer her because it's like, well, my cooking isn't that great or whatever. She could probably just whip something up. To have to figure out something to make the friendship equitable. I don't know, but if you get one of the kind of genies where you only got 3 wishes, yeah, um, I guess basically I'd save that shit for emergencies. I don't know, what would you do with that? And then there's always the monkey's paw, and if you've never read it, just it's easy to find. It's probably I'm sure it's in the public domain at this point. You go to your favorite search engine, you look for the monkey's paw. Cautionary tale about wishing for shit. Great story. Um all right, so why do you think there's no magic in the world, or do you believe there once was, but it ran out, leaving nothing but ordinariness? Now, for me, it's more like the negative energies have overwhelmed it. Have you seen what you cannot fucking afford anymore these days, which is like everything? Um, as an example, we used to once a week have kind of a nice little treat by going down to the general store and getting, some meals for lunch. And that was just kind of a nice little thing to do. It wasn't even going to some fancy restaurant or something. It was just hamburgers from the general store's grill here. Can't afford that anymore. Lucky if we can do it once a month. I'm not going to go back on my political soapbox. You know what I think. Um, all right. So, just basically examining your mindset, both the positives and the negatives, without making like a judgment on yourself about it. Just take it into account. And, looking at it mentions here the law of balance, and, there will be checks and balances, good and bad, in every life, and I know shit's hard, but You can find good things too. All right, our third card relates to your own personal power, self-worth, your presentation in the world. It's the cat spirit. Number 13, claim your independence. Um, all right, let's roll cat spirit. Allow for space between you and others, which is something that I tend not to do. I put myself last usually, and then I can develop resentments. So balance again, a healthy balance there, because you don't want to be one of these people that doesn't ever think about anybody else. But if your entire life is taken up by other people's needs, I mean, now if you got an actual infant that you're taking care of, uh, infants by nature have to be selfish bastards because they can't do anything for themselves. And, so infants and young children are going to take up a lot of your time, but, allow somebody else that you trust to take care of them for periods of time to give you some respite to get your energy back, and you'll be better able to care for them. Um, so it's once again a message about balance here. Um, and that you shouldn't feel guilty about claiming your independence. The protection message is, if you've become too cautious to take risks, which in many ways I am, especially when it comes to my, excuse me, we've got the frog back. Comes to my writing, I tend to, at least my fiction writing, I tend to be very nervous about how other people are going to judge it. Now, one of the faults I realize in my own writing process is I tend to write technically proficient incident reports. Um, at this point, I'm kind of letting myself write those just so I'm writing again. Um, I'm also trying to kind of rearrange my freelancing because in this economy and the fact that I'm kind of an unknown commodity, it's going to be very hard for me to get editing clients. So I'm I'm thinking about putting it out there to do readings again. I had stepped back from that for a long time because what I was getting was a lot of, um, does this person love me? And I do the cards and I'm seeing, yeah, no, that one's really not happening. You ought to focus your energies elsewhere. Oh, but no, god damn it. I can't do anything about that. I can't make him love you. And from what I'm seeing here, he's an immature ass, and you should be glad you're dodging a bullet. So that was hard. I'm going to have to think about how to restructure it, and I think maybe mostly making the focus on creative efforts, but there again, probably are people, am I going to become famous? I don't know. That's not what this is about. This is kind of about where your mindset is in the moment. Those are the energies I read. I'm not making grand, sweeping predictions here. Anybody who claims they can do that is full of shit. So, you know, anyway, I've had to learn a lot of things the hard way. because I'm stubborn. So, yeah, um, getting away from yeah, being worried about what people think of you. Let's just put it plain. There are a lot of twats in the world. Who the fuck cares what they think? So, yeah, that was number 3. Yeah, this one may be a long one, people. Uh, the 4th card, deeper connections to life, healing past patterns, support for overall well-being and happiness. And our friend here is the ant. Number 1. The ant is number 1. Time to collaborate. So I'm not good at collaborating with other people, if I'm honest, but kind of got to work with them. Um, but it also can mean collaborating with spirit. Um, so when the ant spirit comes to visit, it's time to celebrate the benefits of working in partnership. Um, so be open to working with other people, but don't automatically fall into something just because it seems right in the moment. Sometimes things that seem right in the moment will prove themselves out to not be the right fit. So have an attitude of caution there, but also keep yourself open to the possibilities of working with other people. I don't think I'm going to find anybody to collaborate with on my writing. People, yeah, critique groups. All I've ever found is tear down groups. Anyway, if I found a supportive critique group, and I don't mean people who's just gonna tell me what I want to hear, but it's always these people that are just wanting to be a dick, and I don't know. I'm not gonna advise anybody one way or the other on that. Some people are better at working with other people and others. I guess I kind of don't play nice. I always try to be polite, and maybe sometimes I'm overly polite. Although when I'm editing, I'm really nitpicky. I try not to be mean about it, but I gotta get everything out of there. Anyway, also allow yourself to ask for help, and that's something I really have trouble with. I don't ask for help, and I'll just struggle with shit. And that's the protection message. Do you really believe that you have to do everything yourself? Yes, I do. And so if you're like me, kind of take heed of that, and allow other people to help you. And I know that if you're like me, often people's help came with a cost, and so I wasn't gonna take it. And yeah, it takes more than just realizing it to really work on it. It's gonna be a process. Um, Number 5, communication, owning your voice, owning your presentation. Pig. Number 47, use your mind wisely. Well, I I end up being kind of two minds, because it's like, on one hand, I just really don't give a fuck anymore. On the other hand, there's part of me where it is hurtful, when we're talking about people calling someone who has the build that I have pig and other things like that. And it's like, well, you're a fucking asshole. So, I don't know what to tell you. Um, I work to fight against that garbage, and unfortunately, it's always coming out a lot in the whole discourse against the deranged idiot that's currently in the highest office. I don't give a fuck what this motherfucker weighs, what his physique is like, any of that shit. I don't care. Why are you going to that rather than going with what the fuck he's doing? I don't understand it, and I do call people out on it when they do that shit. And it's like, how are you being any better than him? Because he says rude, horrible shit to people about their looks, and he always has. And so, fuck a whole lot of that. I don't care what side it's coming from, and I don't care if you're couching it in concern for my health. Fuck off. You are not concerned for my health. What you're concerned about is wanting to be a sanctimonious prat who tells people what to do and assumes you know what they're doing. You don't know shit. And if you're not the person who does this, I'm not talking to you, obviously. It's a general thing. I'm sick of that shit. I've been sick of that shit for a long time. Fuck off with it. You are not helping anybody. I don't get it, because it's like, all right, let's assume that everybody who has a large physique has it for the same exact reason, that they're always shoveling food into their mouth. Never mind that that isn't true, and that there are a myriad of reasons why a person has the physique they do. And you don't know about any underlying conditions they have, medications they're taking, any of that shit. You don't know shit. But let's just assume for a minute that that's what's going on. Do you think that being a real piece of shit to that person is going to help them? There's this, oh, well, shaming them might push them into horse shit. You just want to be an asshole. You don't actually care if they change. In fact, you'd probably rather they didn't, because you want somebody to be a douchebag too. Fuck off. You're the problem. I'm not. Um, and also, fuck any of you who have made me defend Mango Mussolini in any way. What the fuck are you talking about his fucking physique for? It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if he was the best looking person on earth. The most desirable, beautiful, the one that nobody could refuse. That doesn't matter, because he is destroying the fucking world bit by bit. He's making an absolute hash of the United States. That's what matters, not what he looks like. Fucking hell. Are people really this stupid? All right. Let's look at the card. So the pig appears to remind you to use your intelligence wisely, rather than say to use it to try and destroy people. It's just what I'm talking about right there. Um, Use your analytical mind for good, because not everybody does. You get like the crazy fuckers in Nazi Germany or something, like Dr. Mengele, who was insane and used his intelligence in sadistic ways. And so obviously it's not good to be like that, either literally or metaphorically, to try and tear other people apart, and to also do certain things without thinking it through. And once you turn certain things into an ideology, it becomes a problem. Rather than helping people, people are being harmed. I know I'm being oblique with that, and I can't not be oblique, unfortunately. maybe someday there'll be a return to rational thinking. I don't know if rational thinking was ever there. The protection message with this card is, you know, analysis paralysis, which is a problem I have, which is why I've been having so much trouble finishing any story. And my mind is already racing onto, oh, okay, but I should be working on this thing. I I feel like this clock hasn't moved. I'm gonna look at my um oh no, there it goes. I'm hallucinating. Maybe I need to use my rational mind. Um, so allowing your intelligence to work with your intuitive guidance, and that's a good plan, and I'm trying to learn how to do it. And also to take breaks from things that you work on for long periods of time because sometimes getting away from it can actually help you get into it better. Um, our sixth card today is imagination, vision, and creativity. For me, all of which are important things. We got the peacock, number 46, let it shine. And I feel like I've been getting all these signs to do just that. And yeah, I'm gonna try and do it. Um, when was the last time I shined my light? I try not to because I don't like to call attention to myself. And yet here I am doing this, so I'm always a dichotomy. Um, come out of the shadows. Well, slowly. Not too many people watch this channel, and in a lot of ways, that's just fine with me. Um, I always thought I wanted to be famous. I actually don't think I'd handle that very well, so I don't know. um, oh, gotta go pause for a minute. Okay, here I am back with the peacock, and the protection message. So are you worried about what others might think? More so than I care to admit. So yeah. Do you think you might be punished if you shine too brightly? I have been in the past. If you're kind of, weird and socially awkward like I am, that's kind of a given. Um, and as far as beauty, I am not beautiful in any conventional way. I acknowledge that. Mostly, I really don't care about it. My thought on that is you don't have to think I'm beautiful or anything else like that. What you do have to do is to exercise common decency. You don't have to think someone's beautiful to treat them with basic decency. Fuck's sake. If I treated everyone that I wasn't attracted to like shit, I couldn't really get along in this world at all because I'm not particularly attracted to most people. Mostly people are just kind of people looking. I don't go around in excruciating detail judging everybody's looks. Nobody should do that. It's shit. Anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to learn to be like, all right, I got something to say. And I deserve to say it, whether you think I'm beautiful or not. So there you have it. Um, Beautiful. What a dumb attribute to be obsessed with, honestly. All right, so our final card here, number 7, intuition, spirituality, and your relationship to the higher power. Here we got it. The dog spirit. And we had the cat, we had dog, pig, now we got dog. Number 19, be loyal to what you love. Let's go look into that a little more deep. And yeah, if you have a group of people that you have found connection with, whether it's your family of origin, your found family, or whatever, it's worth fighting for that, even if you have disagreements with them. Now, if somebody is legit abusing you, you don't have to put up with that. Nobody has to put up with that. No matter what somebody says, I did all this for you, yeah, but if they're abusing you, they've kind of broken the contract. Nobody should be abusing you. Um, you you can also look into the love of the higher power. Something I have a little bit of problems with because of past experiences, but as I get older, I'm wanting to examine that and think about it and kind of maybe make peace with my past, even. As far as things go, I was raised Catholic and I really like the current pope. He's pretty cool. I would like to hang with him. Um so, this is just kind of a message that you deserve to be valued. You deserve to have people that are going to be true to you. And if the people in your life right now aren't, then you deserve to find some who are. The protection message is that loyalty can turn into stagnation and enmeshment and loss of integrity. And, if you come from kind of a messed up family in whatever way, there's likely to be that enmeshment thing, the codependency, and uh, I've been down that road, and then every relationship kind of follows the same pattern because you're used to following a pattern. Ugh. I'm not interested in romantic relationships anymore. God in heaven, I don't ever want another one of those. And if you're like that, that's fine to be like that. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But anyway, I would like to establish some friendships. I tend to feel like I don't want to bother people, and then they figure I just I'm not interested in talking to them, so then it falls off. And yeah, so I don't have friends, and that's hard. But yet I'm also kind of introverted person, so I enjoy doing things like this. And yeah, I'm here in my space and talking to people, and so I'm connecting with people, even if it's no, I'm not going out socializing. I don't feel up to it. I connect to people through the meetings I go to, but in a lot of ways I know it's superficial. Nobody really knows, you know, any details about me, and I tend to obfuscate those because I know I'm really different. Your greatest loyalty, big message here, should be to yourself. And often we've been taught not to be loyal to ourselves. Now I'm going to pop my cards back in the box here, and then I got a little something to say to close things out. It's a bit of a personal experience, and maybe learning about it will help somebody else, and that really is my goal in talking about it. Um, I realized last night. With a passing, with a death that is not a total a shock that didn't come blindside me out of nowhere or what have you. I don't tend to express grief through crying, whatever, because I learned early on that crying is weak, so I always hold it inside. It'll come out watching something like a sad movie or something like that. When I'm by myself, I don't let other people see me cry usually. It's rare if that happens. Um, so in grieving, in my bereavement for my loss of my mother, and my mother and I had a complicated relationship. What I will say about things is that I loved my mother. I did. I did not always like her. A lot of the time I didn't like her. In fact, she was very judgmental, very critical a lot of the time. There wasn't a lot of praise that went around in my family. Now, when my mother was, in the last 5 years of her life, her cognition had started to decline. She started forgetting some of the old grudges and stuff she was holding on to, and she became pleasant to deal with. I would call her every night. We always had kind of the same conversation. It was a conversation I looked forward to. And, I was worried about her and worried about what the next steps. My brother and I were going to have to make some difficult decisions. And, then she had the catastrophic stroke in the occipital lobe. And that's, what ended her up in the hospital. She was really no longer there at that point, and it was also discovered that she was in stage 4 colon cancer. Um, she'd been having GI issues for a long time. My brother and I and her friend slash neighbor were all kind of pushing her to talk to the doctor about it. With me, she kind of obfuscated because I asked her when I called her, I said, um, have you seen a doctor about your GI issues? Well, I saw the doctor a few days ago. Okay, great. And I just assumed she must have said something to them about it, but she never did. Um, and she was a nurse, and so, we all agree that she probably had some idea of what was going on, and she was just gonna let it transpire. Her friend said, and she never expressed any of these feelings to me or to my brother, as far as I know. But she told her friend that, she missed my father. She really didn't want to be around here anymore in this world. And, so I think she was just going to let what happened as far as what turned out to be colon cancer. Um, so being that my mother was 85 when this happened, it was, not a shocking death. It was not unexpected. So, I'm being logical about it. But, um, I've always had a fraught relationship with sleep. It's something I've always been trying to work towards. Better sleep hygiene. Well, if sleep hygiene was a shower, I'd probably be like coated in muck dripping from me here and there. So my sleep hygiene is what fuck even. I kind of hate that term. I don't know. But I'd gotten it down to where I was going to sleep to between like 11 p.m., 1 a.m., somewhere in there. That's about as good as it's gonna get when you're me. Um, After my mother died, my insomnia just it took over. And so I'm sitting there watching things and um went a bit off the rails with that, and I'd fall asleep watching stuff without my CPAP mask on. I have pretty severe sleep apnea. I stop breathing between 30 and 50 times an hour. So I wear this fucking mask, and I wasn't doing that. I'd put it on after I woke up, but anyway. So that was one manifestation, and the other manifestation has been my struggles with my fiction writing. Um, yeah, so where I'm going with this is it suddenly came to me yesterday evening that my form of grief for my mother was not by crying or any of that sort of thing. My expression of bereavement was subconsciously attempting to destroy myself because of my guilt, because I felt like I had let my mother down and caused her stress by all the problems I've had in my life. And this feeling, and this is a form of magical thinking, this feeling that if I can destroy myself, I could atone for all the trouble I caused. So, starting with the fact that after she died, very shortly after that, I developed this horrendous respiratory infection. Um, my son got it too, not quite to the degree I did. It lasted a month. On top of having that, it was scary a lot of the time. I was like, fuck, I don't know. Am I going to die? Um, I didn't, obviously, unless I'm doing this as a ghost. But started with that, and then just that horrible inner voice coming out and just lambasting me, you stupid piece of shit, and all the appearance related slurs that it always comes out with. And it's not even related to whatever thing it thinks that I did wrong. And sometimes, I hit myself calling myself names and just never letting up on myself and just thinking, God, I'm just the biggest loser in the world. And um, not being able to do things like telling myself the stories that help me through things and stuff. And so in the long run, well, what is your author business? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I got a Substack and put a lot of recovery stuff on there. My author business. I don't fucking know, man. I really don't. Um, I'm writing the stories that I write. Some of them I end up submitting places. Sometimes they get accepted. I want to go back to telling myself the stories that I want to tell. And I need to stop trying to destroy myself. It's not going to bring my mother back. She doesn't want to be back. I am having trouble integrating myself into the new world. There's a lot of old dreams. Haven't said this one before. It's also a new realization. So this nasty bitch, mean girl, inner critic fucker. Um, what it's like is having a conjoined twin that's all inside. You can't see her from the outside. I am the face. Well, she wanted us to have a different face, and she doesn't like this one, or how I ended up doing things. She wanted to be important and special. Well, I kind of did too, but you get what you get. I liked Hugh Laurie in House. I liked the characters. I didn't like the show. It was often like really mean spirited. I don't like programs that are mean spirited, but I liked the characters, so I ended up watching it. But one thing that stuck with me is when he said, "You don't get what you deserve, you get what you get." And I've really found that that's true. When you grow up with, like I said, the whole prosperity gospel idea, it's like if things go wrong, well, it's because you're not believing right. But I don't think that's true. So anyway, sometimes it takes time to get around to it, but then finally you have the revelation, and you got to allow yourself the time and to work through and to get that and to try and know that you deserve peace and healing. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm never gonna be a star. I'm never gonna be everybody. Oh my God, I wish I could be like the terrible old woman. I wish I could look like the terrible old woman. Man, go get your eyes checked and get yourself a therapist because nobody says that. Um, maybe there's probably not even, and from my philosophy, there's nothing wrong with what I look like. But I know for a fact that I am not conventionally attractive. I am not anyone's goals as far as what they want to be or do or look like. Fucking so what to a whole bunch of it? Maybe I help somebody out there with these readings and stuff. It's over an hour now. I am going to wrap this up because I got some other things I need to do in my day. Um, I wish you peace. I hope this helped you in some way. Carry on.